Wait a sec. We have a sub coming into the game. Our camera crew, if they can get it, we have a sub coming into the game. JP Gibson has come into the game.
Got his wristbands on, the whole works.
High-fiving, check Torrey Murray, who checks out. I think it's the inbound to JP, carry JP play.
24.
Inbound to JP. Here he comes. Working through the big man. Novak misses on the steal. He goes by Exum. Gobert is there. He slides by Gobert. He rises to the rim and hammers. JP Gibson with a two-hand flush.
This is Gordon Hayward. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
What a night. The scrimmage, JP Gibson, the whole deal, plus ton of preseason action and what to look for in the scrimmage. It's all coming up today on Tip-Off. Pow. How are you, everybody? I'm stressed to the gills. Got to be honest with you. Last night was awesome, but somehow, some way, you have 6 months to prepare for today where it all starts, and you get to today, and it just feels like you don't have enough hours. And I finally went to bed at 1:30 last night when my wife kind of said to me, you know, I'm sure you're ready. You're beeping crazy, and I'm sure you're ready, so you might want to just stop. But, yeah, so this will probably be a little shorter than the usual edition of Tip-Off. I'm not a great believer. We always try. This is actually what happened again. We always decide, all right, preseason, we'll just run a very low-end production, none of our pizzazz, none of our regular stuff. And then even as of like 10 o'clock last night, I was texting Jake Rocco, our technical director, saying, yeah, no worries. He's going to get an email in about 30 minutes. This is actually, I changed my mind. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it and sound good. So I had a bunch of stuff. Anyway, so yeah, I'm wigged out. I'm on like 5 cups of coffee already. This could be a hell of a show. Last night was awesome. By the way, a little announcement for you. Again, this is preseason, so we're just putting it together, but we have decided to do a brand new show for you before games on the radio, and I think it's going to be great. I really, really think that Spence Checkett's work as an analyst-level analysis on basketball is great. I think Britton Johnson and he have a neat combination, and the decision has been made by higher-ups to me with full support of mine, because I believe those two things, that if I hosted those two, we might get something really special rather than Spence having to direct all the time. So I'm going to try to take a little bit of a lead role starting an hour before tip-off with Spence and Britton now on radio. I think it could be great. I'm not sure it'll be great today, and I'm not sure it'll be great, in November, but I think it'll be great in December and January and February, and hopefully we do it for a long, long time. So that just so you know, you might want to grab that over at 6 o'clock tonight on our flagship station, 97.5 FM. So that's there for you. Otherwise, preseason basketball starts tonight. I certainly hope that you join us. Tickets are available. Tickets for group sales or for packages are available for the season. Whole sorts of deals. I'll bet you this. I have no idea if this is true. I'm totally making this up. Call your ticket rep, buy a package, see if you can get the preseason game for free today. I have no idea if they do it, but it's worth a try. But get your package, because it's going to be a fun year. Super, super fun time last night by the Utah Jazz. For those of you who are new, by the way, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and generally insane. Fun night. It was a scrimmage. It was low-key. There was a smaller crowd than we usually have for scrimmages, I think, just with the coming right up on the preseason and with a game tonight. No season ticket holders going to go to both. And definitely a smaller crowd than we're used to having, which actually I thought kind of made it intimate and more fun. My only disappointment is I didn't get to talk to anyone. I had my daughter with me, and I just kind of screwed up the day and didn't get a chance to talk and was depressed because the Giants had just lost and didn't get a chance to talk to any of you guys. So I screwed that up. They did it differently. We usually get to do a Q&A, but Quinn had the guy treat it like a practice and just kind of he practiced and then put the scrimmage at 6:30 as it was supposed to be done along the way. But the highlight of the scrimmage, unquestionably, was JP Gibson, the youngster, 5 years old, battling leukemia for the last 2 years. Wonderful family. The Miller family. The Miller family just does so many. There's a bunch of programs that are involved in this, but the Miller family has a behind-the-scenes program that's just incredible. The Miller family is just incredible. The amount of things that they do, behind the scenes that none of us know about or are aware of, or any of those kind of things. And this one, obviously, we all became aware of, but it's just incredible. Gail leads the way. Heidi Miller, Greg's wife, worked so feverishly on it. Not just, I don't mean to just mention the women. Jay Francis, who's on their board, who's through the Miller family, is doing all sorts of incredible work. Tim Howells, former GM of the Jazz, is now working with First Tee. It's all spurns from the top of the Miller family, though. It's just, and yesterday was an example of that. So proud to be a part of this organization, and so proud of you guys, because we got JP on SportsCenter this morning and Top Plays, and it's linked on. You guys are awesome. It's so cool. Everywhere I went today, it's linked. I don't have any idea what hits are. I don't care, but for the kid and the family, and really, maybe the family. I don't know. That's what struck me yesterday. I don't want to get into it because I'll lose it. I cried, everything. I don't think I can do it. I got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. You do too. You got something close, or whether it's 20. Oh my gosh! Right? I mean, there's just nothing. The scrimmage was fun. It was fun to be out there. You know what's fun for me yesterday? I was walking around with my daughter. She's like my best friend. It's just awesome. I can't imagine what the parents go through. Right? They don't. So for those parents and that family that has for 2 years gone through whatever they're going through, I don't know. I have no idea what that is. I'm totally ignorant to whatever that might be, and I'm willfully going to stay that way. Thank you. Just can't even contemplate it. Not strong enough. Not even strong enough to consider the emotions and the fear and the thoughts around that this family of JP Gibson has gone through with the battle of leukemia. And I'll be honest, I didn't ask any questions. I couldn't. I'm not strong enough to handle that information. I don't know prognosis. I don't know likelihood. I just there's no chance that I can even contemplate it or ask those questions. So I don't know anything. But just I think for those parents and those cousins and that whole family, that whole group that was there to have hopefully this 48 hours, right? Like the anticipation, the press conference with Randy Rigby, the conversation with Greg Miller, the event, now the fact that it's nationally viral. How great. So and it doesn't happen without a wonderful organization and a fabulous fan base. If the fan base doesn't jump board last night and retweet everything in the world, people don't get it. So it was awesome. So anyway, thumbs up, everybody. Thumbs up, everybody. All right, let's get tip-off underway. I don't have a lot for you today, frankly. I got a lot of NBA 5. So as we hit here, this is our NBA 5. 5 minutes of NBA news for you each and every day, and then we dig into the rest of the story of the Jazz. Let's hit the NBA 5. All right, NBA ranked 91 through 100 is out. Jabari comes in as the highest rookie at 95. I love this part of it. Tom McCacken, who used to write for the Standard Examiner, and I used to do top 100 players. And what gets very interesting at this level is how you start judging players who help you win compared to players who are talented. So, for example, Boris Diaw and Thiago Splitter, both very talented, but both play the game perfectly and are in there at 94 and 95. And then 98 is Tyreke Evans. Well, it's interesting because if you put those three on a board and you had your chance of who you were going to go get for your team, talent-wise, it's unquestionable you go get Tyreke Evans, and you'd never win more games with Tyreke Evans than you would with Boris Diaw or Thiago Splitter. Many years ago, I got in a huge debate with PK because I put on my top 100 Shane Battier in front of Carmelo Anthony. And my point was that Carmelo's not helping you win at all. He's a million times better player, but at some point I just want a guy who's going to help me win, who's going to move the ball, do everything for my other players, do everything right. And that's kind of where this list gets fascinating to me at this point. So we'll dig into it a little bit each and every morning. We'll also have Favors and Hayward probably showing up in a few days. Valanciunas was at 91. That's interesting to me because he dropped. And I think this is going to be a big step for Valanciunas. I think one thing everybody's forgetting about Toronto, they're one of 4 of the top 25 lineups in the NBA that's actually returning completely as is. The only 4 of them are returning. The one we see tonight in Portland is another. And I think Valanciunas has a big step forward in Toronto, in turn becomes the 3rd team in the West. Kobe Bryant took the floor, 5 of 12, 13 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists in 20 minutes. Everyone's very, very excited about it. I don't know what people... It's a very interesting thing on me on Kobe. I just think he's going to be a good pedestrian player in the NBA. I don't think he's going to have the pizzazz. I don't think he's going to have the ability to bounce back night to night. But I don't think he's going to be a bust. Like, I didn't think he's going to come out and go 0 for 8. Marcus Smart. So I don't know what people are expecting, but 5 for 12 is 40% without any three-point shots. He missed his last 5 as the game went on. Let's see how he plays. I suspect he'll have a low shooting percentage, limited threes, and limited free throw. And I'm not convinced that I think he's he's certainly not a marquee player anymore. He's certainly not an all-star anymore. Steve Nash logged 20 minutes, had 11 points and 5 assists. Julius Randle played well for the Lakers, 10 points and 8 rebounds. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I have no cough button. But elsewhere, Brandon Davies is in Philadelphia trying to make that team. Pretty good chance to try to make it. Nikolai Mirotic makes his first performance. 17 points, 5 rebounds, 22 minutes of play for the Chicago Bulls. That's big time. And interesting to watch in New Orleans, where Eric Gordon played 25 minutes for the Pelicans. He's probably the key to their season. If he's I don't even know who he is as a player anymore. It's been so long. Jimmer Fredette, another 10.3 rebound, 2 assists, night in 16 minutes. And what I think is worth noting there is that Austin Rivers continues to be terrible. I think Jimmer could beat out Austin Rivers as the backup 3rd guard on that roster. It's probably a pretty good situation for him, actually. If you have Holiday and Gordon, both kind of hybrid 1-2s. Holiday's more of a point, but not really. Tyreek Evans, who's a 2-1, and Jimmer, who's really a 2-1. Maybe that 4-guard rotation works for Jimmer very well because he doesn't have to play with the ball in his hands and everything else. Bunch of duds last night in preseason action. Austin Rivers goes 1 for 8. Otto Porter, who Washington needs to step up, so Paul Pierce doesn't have to run too many minutes. And with the loss of Trevor Ariza, and Otto Porter goes 1 for 10 yesterday. Marcus Smart debuted for the Boston Celtics, 0 for 8, 0 for 5 from 3. Frankly, Dante could do that tonight if we're not careful. Elsewhere, Jameer Nelson seems to be the starting point guard, beating out Devin Harris and Raymond Felton. Okay, Raymond Felton. In Dallas. Interesting to see, and Rick Carlisle was speaking glowingly of him. Ricky Rubio offered a 4-year, $48 million deal in Minnesota. The numbers right now on these contracts are actually, within the realm of craziness, somewhat reasonable. They got to be accepted, and we'll talk about it a little bit coming up with how that all happens. But we'll see how Rubio goes at 4-year, $48. Minnesota's got to sign him. He has them. It's an interesting negotiation there because Rubio really has Minnesota. They have to keep him. But on the other level, Rubio's been poor enough that I'm not sure he really wants to risk another bad year and going out into the open market. That is your NBA 5.
Hey, this is Dante X. I'm out new. Call 801-200-3738 and ask me a question. That is 801-200-3738 to ask me a question.
You can also ask Boone a question at that number or share with us your fan of the day. All right, let's get a little bit more on the TV deal. Here's an interesting really aspect of the TV deal that has not been talked about that I heard for the first time from someone last night. The mid-level exception, which is what, $5.5 million, does not change. It's put into, according to the person I talked to last night, I thought it was always the average contract. Instead, he says it's put into the collective bargaining agreement as that number, which is going to make it really difficult for people to get to a $100 million luxury tax. If you go over the cap in any way, getting to the luxury tax is going to be very difficult because if you're signing your own player, you can't mid-level. And if you're below the cap, use your cap space, you don't have the mid-level, it's going to be very difficult to get up over. So eventually everybody does it. There's never been a day where owners aren't going to spend all their money. They always spend all their money. But it's an interesting angle that this whole mid-level exception game is maybe going to be gone because the number's a strange low number in all of this. Talking to people about what it's going to do to extensions, and Ennis and Alec and just any other, the point they make is that it's adding an unknown more than anything else. People don't really have any discussion on what they're certain is going to happen. How are they going to, this whole idea of trying to ease it in and some other aspects and what might happen in a new collective bargain. It's just adding to an unknown on both sides of the table, which is going to make any deal very difficult to get done. All right, what to look for tonight? Preseason against Portland. Now, this is a tough preseason game because you're playing one of the starting five that played the most minutes together of any starting five in the NBA that's returning, I think. I think Indiana's group played the most, and they aren't returning with Stevenson and George, and then Portland's group played the second most minutes of any starting five last year. So they come back, and they're just ready to roll. They've changed their defense a little. They've tweaked a little bit, but they completely know each other. And compared to our starting five, which I believe will be Trey, Alec, Gordon, Ennis, and Derek will be our starting five for this game. Is my expectation. I think Quinn is going to try to use as many guys as possible, but frankly, nobody's jumped out so far. Brock Modem, of the third-tier players, has probably played the best. We saw that last night in the scrimmage of any of those players. And, if you look at our roster, it's pretty well set. You've got the starting five. You have Dante, Rodney, Booker, Rudy, and Novak is 10. Jeremy Evans is 11. Ian Clark is 12. Carrick Felix is guaranteed for the year at 13. Toure Murray is guaranteed to December. Obviously you could cut him, but he's guaranteed December at 14, and so maybe 15 is open, and 15 might be, if you're going to carry 15, is Brock Modem if he plays well enough. Jack Cooley's played well, but I'd be surprised. With the likelihood that Debo's, Kevin Murphy, both who are Idaho Stampede players, go back to Idaho and play for the Stampede. Cooley would go to the Stampede. We have that right because he's a rookie. Did I say Post already? Probably. So I'd be surprised a little bit. I would be more expecting these guys to try to learn how to play together in these circumstances, and that Quinn really uses this as somewhat of a natural rotation of games and circumstances, and let guys see what they can do out there. You saw kind of Dante Exum. The best way someone's described Dante Exum is you see the flashes and you see where he is. I think I've used that line before, but we saw that again last night. You saw the flash, he got by the basket and got people. His length is going to be awesome defensively. He falls to the ground a little bit due to lack of strength still. He has a hard time getting over picks, and his shot is not. He's not confident with his shot. He'll get there. He's going to have some good days. I think good days for Dante Exum are going to be important. They're going to propel him. Every little good day propels him one step. There's going to be certain limits to what he can do this year because of physical strength and understanding nutrition and the wear and tear of a season and all of that. I mean, I just think he's still very wide-eyed, even when just talking to him of where he is and seeing him. He's a super nice kid, but he's crazy young. And so when you see where he is in that progression of who he is right now as a player, I think we're going to see that. I think he'll have some moments. He'll beat somebody. He'll take Will Barton. He'll get stripped. He'll fall over. He'll miss a jumper. He'll throw an incredible pass. A lot of things of that nature. Trey Burke's getting rave reviews from Tony Jones so far and what he's seen out of him on various Twitters. I'll have to keep a closer eye on it. I keep reading that like, gosh, I think I missed it. So I've got to keep a closer eye on what I'm seeing out of Trey because I may be missing how well he's playing in some regard along the way. So what to look for tonight? Playing with a pass, playing with pace, transition defense. Those have been the big keys to all of camp. I think those will be the keys today. One thing that was really interesting yesterday is the minute the guys got out on the floor, they forgot half the stuff they've worked on. And, they no longer have a head coach stopping a drill saying, hey, you're doing this wrong. Get that foot in the right position. Do this correctly. And they're getting caught in the moment. And it's interesting to see And what really has been going on in camp is building of habits. Is that these guys are sitting there building habits. So they're doing stationary drills. In this station, you're going to work on getting up on the body and fighting through the pick. And on this drill, you're going to work on switching the pick and roll in this circumstance. On this drill, you're going to work on getting back in transition defense. And all of a sudden, you get out on the floor with everything going on, and it's very difficult to remember all of those things. You revert back to your instinct. It would be I don't know what it's like driving range against compared to playing out on the course, or probably some skiing analogies out there as well. So we'll see how it all plays out with that and what happens. But I think curious to see how many guys can kind of remember. One thing to keep an eye on in transition defense, okay? Transition defense. Bigs habitually run to the rim. Quinn doesn't want that. Quinn wants the bigs to run and stop at about the free throw line or above it to stop the initial thrust and penetration. Watch our bigs. See if they can do that. They didn't do it at all last night. They got completely caught up. Brock Modem did it, actually. They got completely caught up in the moment, and they went right back to their instincts. And that's not anyone's fault. That's not a bad sign. That's the reality of what these guys are going through. All right, I am short on time today and stressed, so let's take some questions and continue through. And I don't mean this, guys. Don't misunderstand. I just am sharing with you guys what's going on in my life. I kind of feel like we're all just hanging out, chatting, and so I just share with you as much as I can. From Sean McBride, Quinn's attention to detail and mad scientist-like brain seems like a positive, but could this also be the first things mentioned in coach's obituary after getting fired? Does he have a strong enough personality of the staff to keep him in check? Sean, I think that's absolutely accurate. I do think that's going to be – so let's walk through this. Yes, great observation. 2, I like his staff an awful lot, and I think that's going to be the key. And Quinn has said it publicly. Brad Jones's job is to stop him and keep him on point, and I think that's certainly. And I think Quinn's mad scientist brain wearing guys out over 82 games could be a downside. So but let's take. I hate, and I've really tried to avoid. I've failed numerous times, but I've really tried to avoid the comparisons of Ty and Quinn. What were Ty's strengths? Okay, he was a player's coach. He respected the veterans. He generally held a locker room together, and the guys pretty much, for the most part, played pretty hard for him all the time. What were Ty's weaknesses? Lack of attention to detail, some not creativity and scheming. I think these are fair. I have Ty's listening right now. He'd probably be pissed. Sydney would be pissed. Modernizing would probably be a weakness on Ty. And I would say, though I think this is greatly overrated, a lack of ingenuity out of timeout. So frankly, we executed that's crap. Actually, I take that back. That's not fair. You know why? Because that's what I always thought. But then if you go look at it truly, we were one of the best teams in the NBA late in games. We were tremendous late in games. Now, were prayers by Mo Williams or Trey Burke? Maybe, but they went in. So that's crap. Okay, so if that's Ty's makeup, while he was coaching, that was his strength. The minute he got fired, those were his weaknesses, right? I mean, that's why he got fired or didn't get renewed. So, yeah, I think that's actually, Danny Ainge once said to me, you either have a structured coach or a creative coach, and you can't really have both. And Quinn's definitely on the creative side. And so who's going to give him the structure? Ty was a structured coach. Everything was done very systematically, exactly the same way. And Ty may not be the greatest example of this, but you get my point. So I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's going to be the issue of lasting power and how he wears guys out. And, when we go get blasted in Boston on the back end of a back-to-back in March, because the guys just don't have it on that night, which happens all universally across the NBA by every team, not just the team you follow, but by every team. And Quinn loses it because he miraculously is able to never get tired. What happens? Right? It's not that different than, I don't know. I don't want to use that comparison. That wouldn't have come off right. Tyson Newman. I saw you sitting talking to Greg Miller for a while. What was your context of your conversation, basketball related or not? So I don't think I mean, if I'm just talking to Greg, I'm not going to make that a public conversation. But I also then want to say that there was he had friends who were in town mountain biking. I want to know where they went. I talked to him about Heidi's 2 charity campaigns that she's working on right now. His son Oakley is a totally cool kid. He's at Utah State. Found out about him. And we talked some basketball, right? We talked about Quinn's level of detail, how cool practices have been, stuff like that. But I'm answering because I like you, Tyson, and I don't want to say that I'm not sharing it, but I got to be able to sit somewhere and have a conversation with Greg Miller without making it always public. So from here on out on that, I'm just not going to answer the question, if that makes sense. Is that fair? Like that really to Greg. I want to talk to Greg. I really like Greg. He and I have had some cool moments together, and have really bonded on some things, and I'd like to be able to maintain that relationship without him thinking every time we talk I'm going to go public with it. So I hope that is fair. Ben Austin, does the expected large increase in salary cap related to the new TV deal help or hurt the Jazz in relation to other teams, since Utah doesn't appear to be a free agent or major destination? Great question. I drink my Sumatra coffee of the day to try to see if it gives me any inspiration to answer it. I got no idea. Let's think about this. Does this help Utah or hurt Utah? All right. It hurts Utah in this sense, but I think this had already happened. It used to be you could go get cap space and be one of the only teams with cap space. And you could be if you're one of the only teams in cap space, then maybe you'd have an advantage and go sign some players. That seems to be over. Everybody seems to have cap space these days. Everyone's going to have even more. Contracts are shorter. Everyone has cap space. That happened before this deal, and that's hurt Utah because but we got Trevor Booker this year. Trevor Booker is one of the few free agents to ever sign in Utah. Right? Memo, Carlos, Randy Foy, Trevor. Kind of cool. So I think I think the Jazz just staying on plan, it might help them in the sense, let's say Alec Burks really emerges, you can actually win with Enes Kanter, Derek Favors emerge. I think it helps you because you can keep more of your own players easily as the numbers get bigger, would be my thought. Doug Chung, will the Jazz sign Dante Jones for the entire season? I don't know the answer to that in any way, shape, or form. I think it's an interesting angle from camp. I think you'd have to release Carrick Felix or Toure Murray to do it. I'd be surprised if he's our 15th guy. It's a question of whether his veteran leadership really helps. He's a mature guy. He's 10 years in the league. He's a good defensive player. He plays the game right. And so it's just a question of whether that leadership aspect is really necessary. Stephen Ronsley, I'm so excited for the season. So am I. John English checking in. With Kanter working on the outside game, do you see him and Gobert being able to spend time on the floor together? Yes, that's the whole point. Exactly. We saw that last night. I thought that was the part of having him out there together. There was a lineup I said during the scrimmage, and you can watch the scrimmage over again if you didn't see it, in which I said that this is the lineup we'll see on the floor. That's the concept, is trying to get Kanter to be able to play with Gobert and Favors. The centers are going to be Favors and Gobert, and the power forwards are going to be Kanter, Booker, and Novak. And that's the goal. I don't think you're going to see Gobert and Favors comboing very often. It'll muck up the spacing badly, and unless Derek becomes such a good passer, which he's really working on, that he's able to do that. What will this great experience for JP do to his amateur status? It's a good question. Very, very disconcerting. We'll have to look into that. His high school career. There'll be some coach somewhere that will do it. Is today's game on TV outside of Utah? Unless NBA TV is picking it up, no. You can listen on the radio, though. But you can't stream it. You got to do it through the League Pass if that's available, or any of our network stations along the way. And I think this is a perfect way to end it from John English. With the Jazz having their first preseason game today, I've noticed the sky is bluer, the grass is greener, the road rises to meet me in deer leap in celebration behind me when and wherever I go. basketball tonight at 7. Pre-game coverage starts at 6. Have a great one. Thank you very much. Follow us on Facebook. I'm David Locke on Facebook and Locked On Sports. Our Google Plus community is Locked On Sports. It's a great one to be out there. Feel free to share videos and things of that nature on Google Plus and help that community go. It is Jazz basketball tonight, 7 o'clock. Hope to see you in the arena. Otherwise, have a good one and be safe.